Hello and welcome to our show. I'm Dale Matthews, and rather unusually today, here's Mike Jones. Mike,
Yes.
hello.
Yes. No, it's rather unusually every day, Mike.
Mike is a little unusual every day. I'll give you that. Okay, so one of the things we just found out today from the East Coast is that on Saturday, there was a special Easter egg hunt that was put on by a big candy company out on the East Coast. And it was their third year in a row. And a bunch of people showed up, and they had 9,000 chocolate eggs and Easter eggs and this kind of stuff out in 3 different fields. And the idea was the parents would bring the kids, and the kids, starting with the little kids, and then the slightly older, would go out, and they would go in at certain times, and a good time would be had by all. Well, when the time got up pretty close for everybody to go out into the fields and do this one at a time, the adults just were getting very impatient, and they broke through the barriers, some of them dragging kids and some not, and they took all of the Easter eggs all within about a half an hour.
Nice.
They just couldn't hold themselves back. The head of the candy company said it was like a plague of locusts.
Yes.
He said they took everything. I don't know if they stole some of the, parking lot stuff, but they went into the field and took everything that wasn't nailed down, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're much more sophisticated here in Josephine County, Grants Pass. And so I'm going to suggest that you go down to Safeway. It's now after Easter. Every year you mean to do this, don't you? You go down and get half-price little chocolate bunnies, and you bite their ears off.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now I like to buy American, but I have to admit that German chocolate is a bit better than American standard chocolate. It is. It's better than hers. This is Lindt. It's got an unfortunate name in English, Lindt. And
not to be confused with what you find in your belly button.
No. And Lindt balls don't sound so delicious, but they are, buddy, because they're made of chocolate. The one inside melts before the one on the outside. Anyway, get a little, buddy. Go down to Safeway. Don't go to Hagen. They're going out of business here anyway. Go down to Safeway. They got a bunch of these little guys there. And the one that snuggles up to you the fastest, that's the one that you buy. And then you bite his little ears off. So don't forget to go to Safeway and get your half-price bunny. Okay.
And the same situation's going on at Bi-Mart. I was just in there today, and it's very similar. Yes.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. And
there's your tip of the day.
Okay, half-price bunnies. Not a good segue to our first video of today, which is Joseph Rice. And he was at, not a good segue. I didn't say it was a good segue. And he was at last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. He was one of the people that spoke there. There were so many people who spoke that when we're playing them in order, we'll see you in about 3 months. We're going to play each one of them. And this one's a little longer than the others because the question section lasted a little longer. And when he first comes up, this is not a comment about him at all, but a number of people had spoken about Joseph Rice during their questions to other candidates. Really? Yes. And that's what he's talking about when he first comes on here.
Everybody here okay? Good evening. Thank you, Mike, and putting this on, and Dale. I'm Joseph Rice, and I am running for county commissioner. Apparently a person of controversy. I'd like to thank everybody for the support and the kind of digs I'm getting at here. Obviously, I'm doing something right because it's taking notice. I want to look at something, and I've heard a lot of things, and we can attack people, we can look at things, but Josephine County is at a point where we have to have some visionary leadership. We have to look towards the future, and we have to take a very different approach in the way things have been done. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result each time. And I think we currently see that with the established leadership within the Board of County Commissioners and other positions of government. And I think we have to start thinking a little bit outside the box. government is not, nor was it ever intended to be the fix-all, do-all for everybody. It was intended, and the only purpose of government is the protection of the citizens. Right now, public safety, community safety is a huge issue here because we don't have the patrols. That public safety, community safety is not just the physical security of our community, it's also the security of the health of the people and the environment, everything else we're dealing with. So one of the things, and folks kind of know my background a little bit, is my intention is I believe in the Constitution. I took an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution in 1981. I live and honor that oath, and I do so today. I intend to represent the will of the people, protect your individual liberties and rights, and clear government obstacles to employers. Everybody in this room has the right to live their life as they choose to live it. They should not do so with overbearing government encumbrances or government explaining how you shall or shall not use your property or how you shall or shall not use your land. Part of that is, we have to protect the individual constitutional rights, liberties, and freedoms. That's what we do. So people in this room, people in Josephine County can choose to live and prosper. Community safety. We have to address this issue. That's a second type of priority. Economic security that will promote job retention. Josephine County, we talk about economic development. I think we're past that point. We have to stop the backslide. We have to retain jobs here. We're at retention. Once we can have retention, then we can start looking forward to economic development. If you look in the county, if we want to promote business development, employers, government doesn't create jobs. They create an environment so businesses can prosper, and they can do so freely. I've had a proposal. I put it out in the open at the commissioner meetings. Give any new business a 24-month personal property tax holiday. And a personal property tax is what a restaurant is taxed on, from the plates to the phone to the broom they sweep the floor with. Give them 24 months, they don't have to pay a tax on that. That allows them to get their financial feet under them. Any business that's expanding, give them the same thing. Give them 24 months on the expansion. Let them recoup some of those expansion costs. Get that under them. It costs the county nothing. It just gives some insurance for job creation and allows the business to financially get the legs under them. I heard it earlier, honor the Josephine County Charter. We're unique in Josephine County as we have a home rule charter. That charter protects your individual rights and liberties like no other county in the state of Oregon. And as we've seen consistently, the current establishment tends to go outside that. They tend to ignore it. They don't tend to honor it. And it is, I heard it earlier referred to as a constitution. It is. We have an Oregon state constitution. We have a home rule charter. It gives us independent liberties and freedoms, and we need to honor that. Maintain county sovereignty and values by not handing over local decision-making to Salem. Everybody is aware of the current county commissioner's stance to declare a public safety emergency. That word emergency is very, very dangerous. When emergency happens, it allows Salem to come in here and do what they want to do. Arbitrarily, they can raise property taxes to whatever they want to do. They can put in a telecommunication tax, whatever they want it to be. When we look at and talk about public safety, they discuss it as what is an adequate level of staffing. And I've yet to see come out of the department or any place what they feel is an adequate level of staffing. They always refer back to 2012. Well, man, we were flush and times were good. It's no longer that way. What do we truly need to have staffing to support it? That's 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wrap up. I got more, but I'm done.
Any questions for Joseph Rice?
Yes, sir.
Come to the mic, please. If you
I don't really want to ask the question specifically to him. I have questions, a few of them I'd like to have all answered because I want to come up and ask the same question every time.
Oh, I see.
So is there a time that we're going to be able to do that?
Yeah, afterwards, if everybody gets done, then we can, yes.
And Paul Walter said, you know, a politician will say whatever you want to hear. He sure nailed it. So,
Do you have a question, sir?
Yes, I do. So, you know, I believe that to understand what a politician really is, you have to look at his background just a little bit. You know, teamed up with your buddy Ron Wyden to try to extract $50 million to set up your private company. I understand the award was about.
I'll have to stop you there. That's untrue and false.
Actually, it's online. We have the documentation on it. It's a news report all about it. You went to Ron for 50. You got $25,000 from the county, 25 from Sorority, 25 from the state for your business.
That's also untrue.
We want to know where that money went, Mr. Rice. And then the Fielder Dam scheme, you still got your dead fish pictures.
Whoa.
I want to know, Mr. Rice.
That's one question.
Yes, I want to know what makes you think, should make us think that you're going to suddenly change your spots, not try to extract all this tax money out of other people's pockets. You went to Diane Hoover. You went to Diane Hoover to orchestrate the Fielder Dam scare. So what, are you going to change your spots, or are you going to keep playing these games once you get access to the county commissioner's job?
All right.
Which question should I answer?
You going to change your ways, Mr. Rice? Really?
Well, give me one question. I can answer the one question.
Okay.
I'm not going to go through a statement. I mean, first off, in my pamphlet, I don't support any new taxes. I don't support any new levies, period. We in the county must live within our means, period. We are heading for a fiscal cliff. That's going to happen here in 2017. There's going to be hard choices made and decisions going to have to be made to bring and knock things down. No question about it. So supporting and raising taxes, it is unethical to go to people in Josephine County that live in the community, ask them for more money when they're making decisions between heat their home or put food on the table. And that's unreasonable.
Okay. Quick question. Here, let me just interject for a second. It's fine to come. I realize emotions are sometimes involved in some of these questions. Please think about what you're going to ask. Ask a very short, concise question that can be answered. It's not statement time. Okay.
Question. Military helicopter pilot.
Correct.
The 185-page National Transportation Safety Board report on the Iron Mountain 44 incident indicated many problems with the organization. Carson Helicopters. You were director of operations leading up to that?
No.
Director of operations at Carson Helicopters.
I was director of operations.
Did you leave under a cloud of embezzlement right before that incident under which Steve Matheny could not have put those helicopters apart by himself? Were you a part of that?
No.
No part. As director of operations, you had no role in putting together helicopters that crashed that the 195-page report said had to be, because it was 3,000 pounds overweight, gross weight. How did that happen? How is
okay, that's the question. That's the question. Yes, understand. And no, there's no.
That's a very short.
That's enough. We already had two long-winded statement questions.
Well, this is real quick.
Is it going to be very quick?
Yes, sir. It is going to be.
I will, if I may, Mike.
Yes.
I'll answer the last question. I was the director of operations at Carson Helicopters. No question about that. I left and resigned from Carson Helicopters 8 months prior to that accident. When that occurred, I was in Alaska working and flying. I was no longer the director of operations. The reason I left, if you read the entirety of the report, was because of exactly what caused that crash. I was a key witness in the NTSB investigation. I was a key witness with the Department of Transportation, the FBI, and the Office of Inspector General. Part of that was Carson. Steve Matheny was willfully falsifying aircraft weights. I became aware of it. I challenged him on it, and I resigned from the company. 8 months later, they had the tragic crash in California. Prior to that, I had also approached the United States Forest Service and made them fully aware of what I had discovered and knew at Carson Helicopters. They chose to ignore that information. So that's well documented. Matheny is currently serving 12 years in federal prison for wire fraud.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Rice. Your former boss with the Blackwater, now Academia Mercenaries, Bob, wants me to give you his best regards. And your friend Steve with the CIA that you worked with through Evergreen wants to say hello.
Is this a question?
My question that I have is very short. Was I not standing in the vetting area when a bunch of checks and the donation amounts of over $20,000 were taken to the bank and were cashed and brought back and handed in envelopes to Anita White so she could climb up and put them on the spreadsheet? Were you not the one that walked over and took those thousands of dollars out of her hands and walked away with the money that was misappropriated during Sugar Pine? And you said you only took in $8,000 during that whole operation. The question was I not standing there when thousands of dollars in cash were brought after going to the bank, and Anita Weiss wanted to put it in the spread books so we could have accountability of how much donations was coming in from all the patriots around the country, and you came and took the cash out of her hand and walked away with it, and at the end of the operation said you only took in $8,000 during that 4 months.
Okay.
Misappropriation.
All right. Thanks.
No.
You're
Okay.
a liar, Mr. Weiss.
If anyone has questions on that, Roy Lindsay, a current city council member, is the treasurer of the group. There's been a forensic audit. All monies are accounted for. If anybody has questions on it, happy to open the books for full transparency.
It's fine to ask questions that have to do with being the commissioner. This is not an opportunity to sandbag anybody, and that's happened on a number of candidates already up here. I'm fine. Ask the person questions. If you have something very short and concise, you want to ask them something about their past, that's fine. Do it very quickly, because I'm going to lose patience here, and we're just going to stop doing the questions after the person's up here, if that's what this is going to be. Okay.
I just need to say something with what Mike's saying there, because I have had been attacked. I understand my actions in the background has been a little controversial. I believe in what I stand for. If you want to talk to me directly, in the back there, I have a document that verifies everything I've said. So it's actually being held up right now. Please go look at it.
Okay.
Okay, Vivian.
Okay. A little prelude. You have been attacked here a lot. I just want to thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you've done for the county, and ask you, do you love your country? Do you love your county? And are you set on a goal to improve our county? And do you have some economic resolutions to be able to do that?
I do. If we look at Josephine County, I do love my country. My motivation is I have an 11-year-old daughter. I know when I was 11, I had more freedoms and liberties than she'll know today. I also want to see the ability for her to prosper in a beautiful place. We have wonderful people in the county. They're diverse, and they should be able to live their lives if they choose to do so. We have to move forward on an economic path. That has to be the ability to entice businesses to come here. In the last couple of weeks, I've been in two places. I've been in Bend, Oregon, and I've been out in Huntsville, Alabama with a Department of Defense project. And those areas are booming. And I looked at Huntsville because it's defense funded, and obviously a lot of technology there, but we know those budgets are getting slashed. But I looked at Bend. And Bend has a thriving aviation composite industry, development industry. And we have down here in Cave Junction, the Illinois Valley Airport. We don't advertise ourselves. We don't put out to the state, to the country, move to Josephine County. We have the lowest tax rate in the state of Oregon. Bring your business here. We have a workforce that had worked in the timber industry, had worked in the mining industry. They want to work. They have the skill sets to work. We can encourage that here. So instead of saying how negative it is, why don't we start talking about how positive it is? If I'm an employer that wants to go someplace, start up a new business at a lowest tax rate in the state of Oregon, this is a pretty good deal. And if we can entice those high tech in the aviation side, in manufacturing side, to use the Grants Pass Airport, to use the Illinois Valley Airport, there's lots of acreage there. There's lots of land. We can develop that, and we can provide and build living wage jobs. It's not my responsibility as a commissioner to do that. It is our responsibility. We have the ability to remove the regulatory fabric and hurdles that would prevent those businesses from coming in here and locating here. But we have to start selling ourselves as a good, positive community, because we are.
All right. Thank you very much. Joseph Rice.
Well, Okay, so that was a bit longer than some of the others.
Just checking the date on my watch there.
Oh, really? Okay, so today the county commissioners were on KAJO. You won't hear much from Keith Heck because he didn't really have a whole lot to say during the entire time. In fact, I thought maybe he wasn't there at the beginning. They meet on KAJO once a month, and they are received very, very warmly. It is one of the few places, maybe the only place, where the commissioners can go that are in local media in this whole area and be received in a real happy, friendly way. So I would assume they love to go on KAJO. And so they were asked questions immediately by the host there about what's going on with public safety. And here we go.
So generally, what's the budget look like this year? Is it down again a little bit? What are we looking at?
It's down a little bit. However, we've asked the departments to submit for their proposed budgets a status quo budget from last year. So their department budgets will not change that much. They do have the opportunity to raise funds with other grants, and which I would like to put in here at this point, that of the nearly $70 million budget that we had last year and we'll have again this year, only just about 10 million of that is discretionary.
Now, wait a second. Look, sorry to stop them so early, but we keep hearing the same thing over and over again. Honestly, I don't care if we've got a $50 billion budget and all that's left over is 10 million. Set aside the 50 billion. We have $10 million to work with. So the rest of it, whether we like it or not, at this moment, is not discretionary. But you've got $10 million to work with. Are you handling that correctly? Mike, tell me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. If you're handling it correctly or not, Dale. From the kind of job you've been doing lately, I'd have to say no.
Right. So stop telling us, there's this huge amount. Well, other counties have a lot more money. I don't care about. Congratulations to them. How are you handling the money, county commissioners, here locally? Stop talking about how other people are doing. Well, do you realize in Slovenia, I don't care about Slovenia. I want to know, are you doing the right job with the money that you have? Tell us what you're doing.
So we really don't have much money to work with in regards to how that money is allocated.
All right. So your hands are tied essentially for the majority of those dollars.
Yes, the majority of it, yes.
This is why they love to go on
pass-through
there.
money that goes to other departments such as options, or it's grants that go to public health or whatever. So we don't have a lot of discretion in those funds. We do have to approve that. Otherwise, we have to send the money back. So we do have to approve it through our budget. But when you come down to discretionary funds, which have to do with the tax receipts that we have, property taxes or fees, whatever, is right around 10 million.
All right. So with that 10 million, well, I guess the question is public safety. And you've already said that they divide that money. Is there going to be enough money to maintain the status quo, or will we see another reduction?
I think we'll see the status quo this year.
Oh, really? Now, I think we'll see the status quo.
Yeah, and I think she's referring to this upcoming fiscal year, through, I guess, July of next year, and then that's when the fiscal cliff arrives. Everybody's talking about that now. It's funny because I heard this morning on KMED, Keith Heck was on there. They were referring to the fiscal cliff coming in 2017. Ryan Mulkins was on Channel 5 a couple of nights ago. Same thing. All of these people are referring to this thing, which may or may not actually even happen. But listen,
it may happen. Okay, we're going to be fair. Maybe it will happen, but they don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. The trouble nobody knows.
Which is no different from any other year before. I mean, they're talking about what's going to happen next summer. Well, you don't know what's going to happen in between now and then legislatively. But this issue that we have ourselves in, I mean, if you wonder what our problem is, it isn't you don't have to go too far down the road before you find out that government on all levels is our problem. When they're talking about all these funds that are restricted to this and that and this and that and this and that, who puts those restrictions on? Government puts those restrictions on, and they're only going to give you this little handout if you allow them to have their little string of control all the way from Washington, D.C. right into your community. Well, I think personally you'd be way ahead of the game if you didn't take any of that type of money. But the other thing is that because of the money that they have thrown at us, we have accepted other controls on us here. And that is that our economy is completely controlled by them. They have decided, well, no more timber money for you guys.
We think we're going to turn off your oxygen. That'll be an interesting experiment. Thank you.
And then you can start paying for oxygen.
Okay, but my point was, and metering your water. Okay, my point was, okay, so we have this thing coming up. We can hope that we get the money from the federal government. Nobody knows. We do have a contract. Okay. And if you're a company that has a contract with some big outfit and most of your income comes from that contract, you hope that they're going to continue the contract. Well, you've got a contract that's in perpetuity. Well, maybe it will stop. It shouldn't stop because you have a contract. Okay, that's one. Now, what are we going to do to be independent? Well, one thing we could do to be independent is we're going to tax the people more, but the people say they don't want to. Yeah, but we can tax them more, but they've said they don't want to. Well, then we won't ask them anymore. We'll force them to do it. Okay, that's Cheryl. That all three of them. Oh, well, we definitely. I'm not afraid to look at that, says Keith Eck, even though he said he wasn't going to. Then he said he was going to. And okay, so let's force the people to do it. Or my point of saying this thing about fiscal staying the same, status quo. Wait a minute. If you're running short on money in your household, well, it's too complicated for that. No, it's not. You cut back.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about, well, the departments are going to get a little smaller. No, it's going to be the opposite. Why is nobody talking about cutting back? Why is the status quo?
I would suggest that in the past 4 years that these commissioners have been in office, that probably it's a safe bet that the budgets of the departments have gone up by at least 10%.
Absolutely.
For whatever reason. So why can't you now go in there and say, hey, listen, and listen, private business does this all the time. They'll come in there and say, I need you to cut back your department by 10%.
Correct.
We're going to give you 10% less money. Deal with it. And if forced to do so, guess what? They can do that. And then, I'm getting sick of making the argument that we're not in some sort of an emergency because, of course, if you were, that you would do certain things differently. I mean, if you're bleeding out at the arm, you put a tourniquet on the arm. You don't put a unit of blood in the other arm. I mean, that's not how you do it.
You're running low, you don't keep the same speed. You turn the speed down. Right. If you're eating yourself out of your house, you don't keep having full meals. You have smaller meals.
You eat less, yes. I mean, this is things that some of us know about.
So why is this a status quo? That's the reason I asked. That's the reason I stopped it. Status quo? Wait a minute. Or the sheriff says, well, I don't have enough office people. Not enough people out on the road because some of the people are out that should be out on the road are serving in an office. So even if you wanted to say, well, we have to always listen to unions. Well, there are people who feel that. Okay. Then you take some of those people, like I've said before, that are in these departments and you loan them to the sheriff's department where the emergency is. Emergency. Remember, this is what Lipsick's going to say tomorrow at their meeting at 3:30. And I've already had someone send in an email to us, supplied by Mike, where it says, well, please tell me where that is. You're welcome to come and listen to our legislators come in and talk about what they're going to do. You cut back here. You loan some people to the sheriff's department because it's an emergency. And that's one of the ways that you deal with this. Mm-hmm. You can't even have the union mad at you because you're not firing anybody. You're not cutting back the 10%, 20%, 50%. They're still working. They're just working in another department. Can you put that back up again, Mike? Do you mind? Sir?
Sure. Yeah. And, additionally, I think in addition to talking to the state and federal government about, hey, can we start putting pressure on the federal government? Hey, can you guys start paying what you owe us? Can you start harvesting timber? And by the way, when you're harvesting timber, see the stupid part about this is that we have to even explain this, that in addition to us benefiting from the money that they send us for the timber, if they're actually cutting timber, that means people in our community are going to be employed doing it. So we get paid twice for the same thing, But why can't we?
You two on this show, you never offer solutions. You never offer any solutions, Mike and Dale. You're the liberal media.
Well, yes. I just don't know why you can't, you can't pursue all of, that should be your primary pursuit, if you ask me. But, and we certainly want to be free of, we don't want to be, have our economy tied to the federal government. It would be much, much better if the county owned the land within its borders and managed it as it saw fit. And then we, the people, could oversee that process. And it would certainly be much better for us, and it would be much better for them. It isn't a problem for them now because we're not a headache to them. But if we made them a headache and made them understand that you'd be so much better off if you didn't have us climbing up your leg all the time. And just give us sovereignty over our own land. Let us manage it. And
look how that's worked out for back. Look how that's worked out for us. These guys are so sensitive that last Wednesday they cut off my microphone rather than let me even say anything about the fact that there is some activity in Washington, D.C. They knew what I was going to say. I told them for 3 days in a row that I was, and including on Bill Meyer's show, that I was going to say it on Wednesday. They cut my mic rather than have anybody hear it. Well, it's too late because much more people watch this show and tell their friends about it than ever watch the weekly business session. They're so sensitive. We're going to play you back Keith Heck's interview on KMED. It's amazing. I mean, he could just barely tolerate being asked any questions by anybody.
Yeah.
He's too sensitive to continue being a county commissioner. That's my opinion. He's just had it. He has no tolerance for any questions whatsoever. And he's just as intolerant of the public as Dan DeYoung and Mayor Darren Fowler and Roy Lindsay, just as intolerant of all that. Just absolutely no use for any of the public at all. I mean, you've seen it. I'm not exaggerating. Okay, so here's more of what they said on KAJO.
I really do. We've asked for that. I know that the sheriff has submitted a budget with a request for a slight increase. And of course, he knows that's negotiable, and it's just very slight. I mean, it's not much at all. But knowing that we have had actually some increased services because of the way he has allocated his man hours, I know that people probably don't feel that there's increased services, but what it has done is provided an additional measure of safety to the officers that are out there. I know that there's an additional deputy that's been going out to the Illinois Valley in addition to the contract deputy that is there.
During the day.
And that is to provide backup during the shift.
During the day.
That's one of the things that we try to make as a priority for safety for the officers we do have.
All right. Now, I know this is out of the county's bailiwick, or at least the commissioner's bailiwick, but the school district, Three Rivers School District, is also asking for a levy to put essentially armed security people out there, retired police officers in most of the schools that would rotate from school to school. Has the commission had any input in that?
No, we did not meet with the school board, nor did the school board ask us about it. That is strictly their decision, their board decision to put any kind of levy on the ballot. Pardon me. I do know that they met with the sheriff because these people would be working underneath the direction of the sheriff. So being that said, they're going to contract with the sheriff's department. So that'll be an agreement between the sheriff's department and the school district.
All right. Would those part-time retired police officers be available to the sheriff's department should the need arise?
I think if there was a crisis or an emergency, yes, they would.
Oh, this is the news headline of the whole show. Not our show, the KAJO show. What did she just say?
She said if an emergency took place, that they would be available. If an emergency...
Oh, no! What if an emergency took place, Mike?
Didn't they just declare an emergency? Or they said, they said one was imminent. Yes.
Oh, well, no. The commissioners have said it already exists. It was that agreed that it's upcoming. And the mayor said it's already here and has been here for years.
Oh, well, that's a fiscal emergency. You're talking about, an emergency like red lights and siren type of thing. That's completely different.
Let's parse words because, of course, they're not trying to fool us in any way. These are going to be armed people that are already trained.
Yeah, but it used to be
cops. Our children. Think of the children. They're going to be protecting our children, and they're available to the police, available to the sheriff's office. Why don't we do that everywhere? We'll just pretend like there's another.
Yes, of course. Listen,
let's just do it for
again.
Children.
Again, here is the point. The reason why things are screwed up here is because of government restriction in some way. The sheriff will tell you all day long, well, we can't put that. It's against the regulation. You can't have a guy out here without a guy to back him up, and you got to have this much training and this much and blah, 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 blah.
But they've been doing it. They've been doing it. They're now going to add a person on because they've already been doing it.
The point's going to get lost here.
Okay.
The point is that back in probably the 1960s, you didn't have all this burdensome crap on the guys went and spent a couple of weeks at the academy or whatever, and then they're out on the street. Now, I'm not saying that that's the optimum thing, but it would certainly do in a pinch, and it's better than not having a cop available. So why can't they just have a horde of these cops that are willing to be employed for less than what the going rate that they're talking about having them? Maybe some of these guys want to drive their own cars. Maybe you want to deputize some regular citizens. This is the kind of stuff that they used to do. And if you think it's an emergency, wouldn't you rather have 5 of your neighbors tackle the murderous criminal as opposed to nobody?
Okay, I'll tell you why.
Can we start an operation? But you can't do that because there's a law and there's this and there's that, and this funding stream would be cut off if you did that. And it's just like, come on, really? What are we doing here?
I'll tell you. The reason they can't do that is because if they did that, they could take the $135,000 that came out of nowhere for water testing and went away to nowhere. And you could take that, as Cheryl Walker said, and that would pay for one sheriff's deputy. No. That would pay for like 5 of them because they're going to have 6 for less than $200,000. It would pay for, well, we'll say 4. 4. Okay, that she just said that they could
even
be.
If it's 2.
Even if it was just 2, they could do that. And that was just 1. That was just 1 year. And all the rest of that money, they can't do it because that will take the pressure off of, I'm not making this up, that would take the pressure off of the idea of a levy. And the other thing is, how long has this sheriff been in office? It's been 3 years now? 3 years.
No.
No, how long has it been? No.
He just started January of last. He's been a year and a couple of months.
I apologize. You're right. It's less than a year and a half. I was thinking of the commissioners, the two new commissioners that are one-term commissioners. It's Simon Hare took his oath at the same time the sheriff did. So how long has there been a contract under this sheriff with the city of Cave Junction, under this sheriff that has one person out there? I'm not saying it's safe, but how long has it been? About a year and a half. And now suddenly we're going to have another one. Okay, I think it's a good idea. But see, that other one wasn't ever safe. And now they're going to need 2 on the same shift during the same day, during the daytime.
I'm sorry. And this is the kind of moronic stuff that, again, hello. Can we listen? I don't hate government. I hate stupid government. This is stupid government. This is governing by stupidity. Why cannot you use common sense? Why can't you do the things that we all know that we all could do? Why not?
It's not getting them to their goal. Their goal is to get a levy. And if you won't vote for it, they're going to force you to do it. And who's pushing on that more than anybody else? The city council, the Grants Pass City Council. And what's their solution is they're going to get 2 of their members as commissioners.
Yeah. Listen, I rest my case. I think we would be better off. I believe that we would be better off if all county, city government, if it was all gone and it was all of a sudden the citizens' responsibility to make sure we jump through these hoops. You know what? It would happen. It would happen. People would step up and it would happen that we would make it take place. Now we pay these guys a hell of a lot of money. Now, when are they going to start giving us results? Why is it that you still are mismanaging this? It's your job. You don't have another job on the side. This is your job. For crying out loud, start doing it. And if you don't like the rules, if the rules are preventing you from doing your job, then lobby to have the rules changed.
Right. Now what they should be doing also, in my opinion, is they should be dinging the federal government, and instead of spending money on getting someone to write happy, fluffy articles about them and pay to put them in the newspaper, because that's Simon Hare's plan, and the other 2 were, wow, that sounds pretty good to me. Instead of doing that, okay, you dedicate part of your time, or if you absolutely have to hire somebody, I don't like that, I don't like it, but you have somebody write a letter every day or once a week to the federal government saying, hey, you ignored my last 5 letters. Here's another letter. Here's another letter. Here's another letter. Here's another letter.
Right.
Make sure all the population knows that you're doing that.
And let me suggest some content for that letter. Hey, because you guys,
keep in mind it's a family show now.
Yes, I understand I understand that. Because you guys won't fulfill your obligation, here's what I have to do. I'm sending grandfathers out here because you guys won't do what you said you're going to do, what you're obligated to do. And if some of those people die as a result, that is on you, because you have decided that you're not going to pay the debt that you owe to us. Now, not only do I want you to start paying us, I want you to start harvesting, and I want you to have some sort of an injunction against environmental lawsuits so that they have to somehow prove their contention before you, put a total stop to industry in the state. For crying out loud, we all know that half of these lawsuits that come in are frivolous. It's for the purpose of stopping the economic activity. It's for the purpose of stopping, lumber from being cut. That benefits all of us. So if we don't have some sort of thing, if some sort of a law is not passed about dealing with this unique issue, then we're going to be stuck in this situation forever, because every time somebody proposes, cutting some tree down, they file a lawsuit and puts a stop to it. Why is it that they have that much power? Why can they shut down? Why can't they stop you from turning on electricity in your house? That must, listen, the inadvertent light coming from my windows is harming nocturnal creatures around here. That's just not right. Why don't they do something about that? I mean, you see how crazy this is?
Well, okay, so even if we just concentrated on senators in Washington, D.C., there's 100 of them, right? Just the senators. Then what you do is 3 times a year, you say it's the Charles Grassley Day. I don't know if he's still a senator. Sorry. Nancy Pelosi Day is 3 times a year. and you send a letter out and you tell everybody today's Nancy Pelosi Day, or pick a Republican senator, one that you like, Mike. What's a Republican senator that you like?
Well, yeah, no, there's a few of them. There's Ted Cruz, Mike Lee.
Okay.
There's a bunch of them that are that I don't like either.
Senator Mike Lee Day comes up 3 times a day, 3 times a year. We send out a letter 3 times a year, specifically saying that if anybody dies among these grandfathers that are patrolling our county, armed grandfathers that are responding only when there's an emergency, which is supposedly today, we're going to lay it at the doorstep of Senator Mike Lee, because it's Mike Lee Day.
Right.
And you send out letters to those senators.
Yeah, and additionally, we're going to add the damages for that situation to the lawsuit that you're ultimately going to have to be dealing with from us. Listen, it's time to hold them accountable. These commissioners that we have not. I bet you they haven't even sent one letter. And we're waiting for this organization of O&C counties to file this lawsuit. I'm not confident that that's going anywhere. I don't know what that organization has ever done for us. We're sitting around waiting. Simon is he's the person affiliated with the department of the Association of O&C counties. So he's at the forefront of taking care of stuff. And then Simon can wax eloquent for a half an hour about things that everyone else knows nothing about, that has to do with the Association of O&C counties, and we're all very impressed. But nothing ever gets done.
Well, you heard on this show his last report. When he went away to a meeting, remember, he wasn't there, and then he came back, and then his report lasted less than a minute, and it was nothing good happened. Nothing good happened. Why are we a member of an organization where nothing good happens?
Yeah, and what is that costing us? And this lawsuit, who knows if that's going to go anywhere? I want to know what that lawsuit is targeted at. I want to know, how much we're spending. He gave us a report
about that. He said, I felt good about part of it, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you, the commissioners, what happened or what our plans are. You know what? That being the case, you are no longer our representative. We are no longer part of that organization. We're going to take some of that money. We're going to give it to the sheriff's department, and he's going to tell us what he's doing with that money.
Listen, you know what? If lobbyists can create change in Washington by showing up and offering money to people, we can affect change in Washington by showing up, on a daily basis, at least virtually, and being a pain to them and calling them up and saying, hey, listen, when are you going to do such and such? Listen, after a time that they're going to go, you know what, that's going to stick in their mind, and they're going to go, hey, we probably ought to do something for these people to get them off our back.
Exactly right.
The only way that you do this, and I don't know why these people don't see it that way, it's because they are ideologically predisposed to believing that taxation is the cure for all woes. And so that's the only avenue that they're pursuing. And listen, I'm sure you're tired of hearing this from all of us, but that is what's going on here. And until we have commissioners in there that are willing to do something different than what we're doing now, which is essentially nothing, and griping about how stupid the people are because they won't vote to raise their own taxes. Until we start doing something different, this is our lot in life. Okay, so be prepared to be, a cantankerous old griping fool, unless we're willing to move in the direction that I just described.
Well, what was it that Barry Goldwater said? I'm going to rephrase that extremism, extreme cantankerousness in the service of your county is not a vice.
It's no vice, yes.
Right. Well, so we have some advice for these guys. No, I'm not advising them to suddenly take up the cause of the people. I'm advising them to get out. We'll handle that from now on. We don't need your help anymore. Just stay quiet. Be like Keith Heck. Just be quiet. You don't even need to know what's going on. You can just go back to sleep. Don't do any harm. Number one, do no harm. And then we'll take over. Thank you very much. Well, good night, everybody.